All right, all right. Let's see here. Are we live? Your channel, view the channel. All right, let's see here. Stop it. Are we live on the YouTubes? I don't know. Are we live on the Facebooks? I don't know. I guess we will find out in a minute. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read live from my book, We Can Do This, Overcoming the Political Divide and Creating the World We Want to Live In, that I wrote this fall. And then that will become the official audiobook version. There we go. I see I'm live on the Facebooks. I don't see that I'm live on YouTube, so maybe I'm live on some other YouTube channel. Who the fuck knows? Who cares? We're doing this now. So, yeah, and the recording will become the official audiobook. So, there you go. There you have it. I'm going to pull up the manuscript on my computer here, and then I'm going to read off of that. So here we go. The official audiobook for We Can Do This, Overcoming the Political Divide and Creating the World We Want to Live In by Calvin Corelli. That is moi. All right, the dedication. This book is dedicated to my wife, Nomi, who's been an incredible partner in my own healing journey to become the man I am today, and supportive of me venturing into the treacherous world of politics. I also dedicate it to my two beautiful children to whom I want to leave a world of love, health, freedom, prosperity, and integrity. And finally, to all the people who have fought for truth and love and integrity and suffered so much vilification and injustice in the process. Thank you for standing for what's right. Legal disclaimer. Everything in this book is pure fiction. You shouldn't take anything I say seriously. It's all just for shits and giggles, obviously. One would have to be crazy to believe any of this, right? All I'm suggesting is that some other people believe these things, and that if indeed they were true, that would be very interesting. The content of this book is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, financial, or legal advice. Always seek the advice of qualified professionals regarding any specific condition or issue. The practices and techniques discussed in this book should be approached with caution, and if you experience any discomfort or difficulty, stop immediately and consult a professional, because obviously we never want discomfort or difficulty anywhere in life. By reading this book, you acknowledge that Calvin Corelli and Powerful Through Grace, that's my company, hold a copyright to all material contained within, and it is protected under applicable copyright laws. You also acknowledge that you have not relied on any promises or representations not explicitly stated in this book. Any disputes arising from the content of this book will be resolved through binding arbitration in New York City, New York, with the prevailing party entitled to recover fees and expenses. Also, I am not suicidal. All right, so let's get to it. There's an illustration here in the book that you can maybe see here. So this is my map of what's happening in the world. I don't know how this is going to translate in the audiobook, but basically you've got a graph from left to right where you've got like the left, the center, the right. This is the normal sort of political narrative, like the political spectrum, if you will. But then there's another dimension from bottom to top, which is the low rung and the high rung. And this is going to be a very important distinction when we get to it. And the graphic here is essentially two people that are being puppeteered and kind of pulled to each side, but they're being played by some hands that are outside of this entire matrix. And that is, as you're going to see, something that's going to be important later on. All right, so introduction. Why the hell are we fighting if we all want the same thing? That's the question I couldn't stop thinking about. Writing about politics is not for the faint of heart. It's like walking into the fire. There's no turning back. I'm certainly not writing this book to get rich. I expect to lose clients. In fact, I've already lost one, and the book isn't even out yet. I'm okay with that. It's the price we pay for standing for something. I'm writing this because I feel is my duty. I'm not gonna lie, it is scary though. The thing that triggers me emotionally is when people get upset over things I didn't say and don't mean. The client that left my coaching program did so citing two topics I didn't even talk about. She heard some other voice in her head and got angry at me. It feels unfair. It hurts. And then I remind myself of the words of Byron Katie. I've been spared. When people self-select out of your life, you're always better off without them until they come back. If they do, then you'll be better off with them again. I love how life always works out exactly the way it's supposed to. I'm not blaming the people who react this way. My emotional reaction is mine to heal, and I'm grateful I got to see what needs healing. Let's do it right now in real time. Healing the emotional trigger. What's the underlying fear? What's my inner caveman afraid of? He's afraid that the people I believe I depend upon for my survival will reject me because I revealed my private thoughts. I've somehow revealed something that makes me a bad person. I didn't know I was a bad person. I don't think I'm a bad person, but something I said is to them irrefutable proof that I am a bad person. What if they're right and I'm just missing it? What if I'm so bad I can't even see how bad I am? That's scary. He's also scared that even people who agree with me will turn their backs on me because they're afraid of the blowback. He's afraid, again, this is my inner caveman boy, he's afraid that people reject me without telling me why, so I never get a chance to improve or restore the connection. He's afraid I'll lose my income because my current clients will quit and no one new is signing up. That I'll end up alone, sick, poor, and die a miserable death. No family, no friends, no money, no food, a pariah, an outcast. Only a blender. I'm gonna pause here and wait for the blender to finish. Hang on. This is what you get when you live. I'm recording this at home. My wife is blending something in the next room. Let's see how long this takes her to blend. Hang tight. I don't know. I'll do it later. Do your thing. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll walk around. I'll go to another movement. And then I know I'll just finish this one up and then the next one I'll blend in another move. Sure? Yeah. I'm slow. Let me blend this one finish. Yep. Just gonna get some fresh air while we wait for the blending to wrap. There we go. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. All right. Thanks for your patience, everybody. It is really fascinating what's happening in the world right now. Most people aren't very good at thinking very clearly. And I'm not blaming them or criticizing them. It's just like that's the world that we've created. That's the world that we live in. And yeah, it's worth I hope with this book that I can provide a different perspective of just adding some more thoughtfulness to the whole conversation. Can I actually stream live to Twitter as well? I probably could. Destination, add destination X. Let's try it. All right, I'm gonna stop and then restart. Hey, I see some people joined in here. I'm gonna try to do. I got interrupted here because of some people get in my household blending. All right, let's see. All right, so next time I can do it to Twitter as well. All right. Let's keep going. For those who just joined, I am live streaming the recording of the audiobook of my book. We Can Do This. I'm in the middle of the introduction, so I'm just going to keep going from where I were. Actually, I'm going to start over on that page. Healing the emotional trigger. What's the underlying fear? What is my inner caveman afraid of? He's afraid that people I believe I depend upon for my survival will reject me because I revealed my private thoughts. I've somehow revealed something that makes me a bad person. I didn't know I was a bad person. I don't think I'm a bad person, but something I said is to them irrefutable proof that I am indeed a bad person. What if they're right and I'm missing it? What if I'm so bad I can't even see how bad I am? That's scary. He's also scared that even people who agree with me will turn their backs on me because they're afraid of the blowback. He's afraid that people will reject me without telling me why, so I never get a chance to improve or restore the connection. He's afraid I'll lose my income because current clients will quit and no one new signs up. That I'll end up alone, sick, poor, and die a miserable death. No family, no friends, no money, no food, a pariah, an outcast. That's a scary story. No wonder he's afraid. I know my intentions are good. I know I don't hold ill will towards anyone. I know that I only want happiness, health, prosperity, safety, freedom, power, and truth for everyone. And yet my inner caveman is terrified I might say something that will anger the mob with no recourse, leading to a painful and lonely death. The beautiful thing is that once you've looked your fear straight in the eyes, it no longer has the same power over you. You see that the fear is overblown. You've seen where it leads. You've seen the bogeyman under the bed. He's not real. He's not that scary. You'll figure it out. You can relax now. I bet I'm not the only one who has similar fears. You can see why people are reluctant to get involved in politics. Blowback. Some of these events came true for me 4 years ago. I posted stuff exposing the lies about COVID and BLM, sometimes with a touch of humor, irony, or sarcasm. One of the things I shared was a 20-minute video about some of the things I'd learned from reading Thomas Sowell's excellent book, Black Rednecks and White Liberals. Read it if you haven't. It's eye-opening. The vitriol of people's reactions shocked me. The owner of a PR agency I worked with, someone I considered a good friend, dumped me. I asked to learn what I said that was offensive, and I suggested we get dinner and hear each other out. No interest. Ouch. One day I was texting a new friend with whom I was planning to go into business, and he replied with, "Calvin, you can go ahead and delete my number. I have zero tolerance for racism and bigotry in my life." Me? Racist? That's crazy. Ouch. At my software company, Simplero, we were in the final stages of a potentially very lucrative business partnership when it was summarily terminated via this brief impersonal email. "This letter serves as our notice to you that we are terminating our relationship with Simplero pursuant to the terms of the agreement dated May 12, 2020. Pursuant to this agreement, please destroy all company confidential information provided to Simplero." No further explanation or communication. No replies to my follow-ups. Ouch. It hurts when people reject me like that. I know I've done nothing wrong. Nothing other than to challenge orthodoxy, of course. And that might be the greatest crime of all. After all, Galileo was put in house arrest for life, forced to publicly recant his beliefs, and his works were still banned. At least he had it pretty good compared to the Soviet Union, where you'd been thrown in the gulags to do forced labor under harsh conditions and slowly starve to death amid violence and mistreatments. Yikes. We think it couldn't happen here, but we know better now. Never forget that humans did these things to other humans. When whipped into a frenzy, they'll do it again. It's just a matter of pushing the right buttons in the right sequence. We saw this during COVID, where people felt righteous in forcing, shaming, and threatening others into taking an unproven pharma injection. And people on TV said with a straight face that if they wouldn't, they shouldn't be treated in hospitals or be allowed to dine in restaurants. When legitimate, honest, well-reasoned, and well-intended political speech becomes this fraught, we're in a dark place as a society. It will scare half the country to shut up, bow their heads, and live in fear for a while. It doesn't matter what your political views are, we must come together as a people and agree that we need to be able to talk to each other, to listen to each other, to assume innocence, and make a genuine effort to understand each other's worldview. How radicalization happens. When people respond in the way I experienced in 2020, it's easy to get radicalized. I know I had the best intentions. I'm fairly sure I said nothing wrong, and no one has pointed to anything specific I said was wrong. Ever. Hasn't happened. When people on the other side won't engage in honest conversation, when they just end a personal relationship and label you racist and misogynist and bigoted, it's tempting to just conclude that the other side is dishonest, beyond hope, a bunch of NPCs, and to give up on them altogether. That's why this type of response only helps to radicalize us. I may have been wrong about everything I said. I may have said things that were in fact racist, but ending the relationship with no possibility of repair and honest dialogue will only make people more radical. The people I mentioned may believe themselves to be on the side of tolerance, kindness, love, and honesty. They may believe that I'm an intolerant, unkind, unloving, dishonest person, but there is no tolerance, kindness, love, or honesty in how they responded to me. I don't blame them. I'm not upset with them. We've all been traumatized and weaponized into reacting how we react. Even so, we have to do better. All of us need to remember that if I'd seen what you've seen, I'd probably believe most of what you believe. And if I believed what you believe, I would do the exact same thing that you do. You and I are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're husband and wife, we're uncles and aunts and nephews and nieces. We're parents and children, we're co-workers. No matter how much we disagree on politics or worldviews, we're all on the same team. We're all innocent children at heart. We all want what we believe is best. If I believed what you believe, I too would believe that same thing would be best. Never forget that. Keeping silent. Like I said, I think my fears and my experiences are quite common, and I think it's why so many people just keep their heads down and don't say anything publicly. I've had many private conversations who agree with people who agree with me politically, but are too scared to say that precisely for fear of the backlash that I've experienced. They'll say, this conversation can never come out in public. I get it. There's very little upside to saying anything publicly unless you want to make your life and your personal brand all about politics. You alienate half of your employees and half your customer base and you gain nothing. I talk to many people who are afraid of revealing their true thoughts and feelings, always walking on eggshells, trying to suss out the right thing to say, terrified they might slip up and say the wrong thing, accidentally revealing that they're bad because they had a forbidden thought. This triggers shame, the most painful feeling we can ever experience. I totally understand. This shame and the fear of being cast out of the tribe is deep and real. We're social creatures, and we evolved to instinctively know that without the protection of the tribe, we're dead. And that's precisely how we end up sleepwalking into that dark future. Many people just want to stick their head in the sand. Many people just don't want to stick their... Many people just want to stick their head in the sand and wait for the whole thing to blow over. I'm sorry to say, I'm not sure it will. I believe things are the way they are by design, and only men and women with the courage to speak their minds will turn things around. But to me, it's not a math equation weighing upsides and downsides. I believe it's our moral duty to stand for what's right. I will not let expedience and short-term self-interest get in the way of doing what my heart tells me is the right thing to do. I will not let expedience and short-term self-interest get in the way of doing what my heart tells me is the right thing to do. I believe we're already living in World War III, and it's being fought with information, not bombs. And you and I are the weapons. I will not sit idly by as we're being weaponized against each other and marched into a real-life version of 1984 because I was scared I'd lose a little money or a few quote-unquote friends over it. The way to sidestep the war is by speaking our truth calmly honestly, compassionately, and without demonizing the other side. I don't always do. Sometimes I fall into that trap myself. Oops. I'm human. Freedom is not free. Each generation must re-earn the right to freedom. A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. In the words of Martin Niemöller, first they came for the socialists and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists and I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. I believe we're sleepwalking into a dark future, and it's our moral obligation to find the courage to act on principle, not expediency. Trauma. When your trauma wounds get triggered, what's happening When your trauma wounds get triggered, what's happening is your survival mind reacts on pure instinct to anything that reminds you just a little bit of what traumatized you originally. It's all unconscious, and it happens so fast that your conscious brain doesn't have time to get involved. And once your inner caveman or cavewoman has been activated, you simply cannot think clearly. In fight or flight, there's no time to analyze. Survival is at stake. It makes me sad that people have been so traumatized that an honest and loving conversation about how to create a world that works best for everyone will so easily trigger their traumas. It also makes me angry because I believe it's all done intentionally by some very damaged people who only care about how it serves their agenda and to whom your trauma is just collateral damage. I believe it's been done to make us all easier to control and turn us into weapons that can be wielded against other people just by saying certain phrases in the media. It's like we've all been made into little Manchurian candidates. If you haven't watched that movie, go watch it. I heard this phrase over and over again about the Manchurian candidates. I'm going off script now. And I didn't understand what it meant until I watched the movie and I was like, oh my God, like this is actually a thing. This is kind of how it works. If you look at MK Ultra and stuff like that, it's like literally how that works. All right, back to the script. This makes it that much more important that those of us who still have the mental bandwidth to have rational and honest conversations find the courage to continue speaking and to hold space for people's emotional reactions. I want to mention that some good things have happened too. People have told me privately that they agree with what I said and they appreciate me saying it, even though they won't say so publicly for fear of the backlash. I've also heard from people that even though they don't agree with me on everything, it would be wild if they did, they trust and respect me more because I say these things. Getting triggered. If you read anything in this book that triggers you emotionally, perhaps it makes you feel scared, angry, sad, shame. All right, I'll do that over. If you read or hear anything in this book that triggers you emotionally, perhaps it makes you feel scared, angry, sad, shame, guilt, heart is racing, you feel the urge to label me or put me in a box, I'd invite you to pause and notice exactly what's happening. Slow down and pay attention. It's okay. Your inner caveman or cavewoman just got activated. I get it. It happens to all of us. It's normal. It's human. I'm not here to take away any of your rights, to deny anyone their experience, or to oppress anyone. Quite the contrary. I'm here to point a way forward to a world that would bring love, healing, and freedom. A world that would increase your rights, your freedoms, your prosperity, your health, and your joy dramatically. A society that would be fairer and make everyone better off. And more importantly, the way that we can come together as a people and decide for ourselves how we want to live. The other side is not your enemy. They're your neighbor, your husband, your wife, your dad, your uncle, your son, your daughter. We're all on the same team. So when you get triggered, what was it that triggered you exactly? What were the words you read or heard? What did you make them mean? Pay close attention to your thoughts because they are always what's causing the emotion. Know that your emotional reaction is about you, and it's an invitation for you to step into more freedom. Fix a typo here. If you make it about me, you miss out on that opportunity. That doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I'm only talking about the emotional reaction. Your emotional triggers are always about you, not about whatever triggered you. We'll be diving deeper into that later because it holds the key to not just politics, but freedom and joy in all areas of life. a bad book. You might be afraid of even reading this book, afraid of being called names, of being seen as one of those people. Or you might be afraid of changing your mind on some important topic. Recognizing that you believed a lie can be painful to the ego. You may even be afraid of losing friends were you to change your mind. This is exactly why this book is so important, because it's critical that we can disagree and still remain friends, still love and respect each other, still work together, play together, and celebrate holidays together. Belonging to tribes is fundamentally human. Families, sports teams, friend groups, fraternities, and yes, political factions. As part of any tribe, we quickly learn which opinions are acceptable and which are not. When someone joins a new company, for example, they're usually quiet until they learn how it's done around here, which is exactly the opposite of what you need as a leader in a company, because you want outsiders to point out where you've become subject to groupthink. I've experienced this in groups on the left where saying you're a Republican would get you labeled racist. And I've experienced it in groups on the right where criticizing Jordan Peterson would make you an outcast. Tribes typically don't encourage open-minded conversation. They don't say, "Oh, that's interesting, tell me more." Instead, they shut down the conversation and let it be known that this line of thinking is not accepted. "I'm disappointed in you. I thought you were one of us." Getting kicked out of our tribe is scary because Getting kicked out of the tribe is scary because we depend on the tribe for our survival. During our thousands of years on the savannah, being cast out of the tribe meant a painful death. I've had visions of past lives where I was a medicine man. I've had visions of past lives where I was a medicine man who got kicked out of a tribe by speaking an unwelcome truth. I have no idea if it's real, but it's a scary, painful memory that was lodged somewhere deep in my subconscious. It might be an archetype. You probably have some similar inside your unconscious mind, too. You may also be afraid that if you really follow my call to step up and take on the man behind the curtain, it might threaten you and your family's personal safety. And it might. I'm not going to lie. They have lots of ways to go after people they don't like. Many people who know too much have suddenly turned out to be suicidal. It's very curious indeed. You may think it's not worth the fight. And I can't fault you for thinking this way. I'll just quote Edmund Burke. "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." All right, how are you guys doing? Let me know in the chat, in the comments. Let's see here. I think I'll do one more chapter and then call it for today. Let me see here. That was the introduction. Now we're going to do two movies, one screen. 2 movies, 1 screen. So that was 12 pages. All right. Got some ways to go. All right. Here we go. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. 2 movies, 1 screen. It's crucial to recognize that what we're seeing is not a clash between classic liberal or conservative policy differences, gay rights, taxes, that kind of thing. That's not what the chasm is about at all. It's a clash between 2 different worldviews, 2 different stories about the nature of the reality that we live in. We live in 2 completely different perspectives, and even though we see the exact same event on the TV screen, how we see it is vastly different. It's like we're watching 2 movies on 1 screen, a phrase coined by cartoonist and hypnotist Scott Adams. This is precisely why it's so important that we talk and listen to each other. Both sides think they're right. Both sides think the other side is a threat to democracy. Both sides consider people on the other side low information voters. Both sides can't believe the election's this close when the choice is so obvious. This is the problem. That's why we must listen and understand each other. You may find their worldview abhorrent, or that it's quite a stretch to see it that way, that you have to be naive or gullible or tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, or however you judge it. That's fine. But understand that a significant portion of your fellow citizens do see it that way. Probably members of your own family too. We need to understand each other and respect the fact that they have good reasons to believe what they believe. If you'd seen what they'd seen, if you'd had similar experience, if you'd seen what they've seen, if you'd had similar personal experiences, you'd probably see the world the same way they do. Learn, understand, don't judge, appreciate. We're all doing the best we know how to. I'm going to lay out the two worldviews as best as I can. All right, in order to do that, I'm going to share with you guys here on the video. Let me see here. Yeah. So this is the illustration that I have in the book. So it's got like the left's worldview. We've got media, FBI, judges, whatever. They're impartial. They're good people. Then we got the Dems, and we got the Republican. Well, we got the sane Republicans, and we got the MAGA people and the Trump MAGA right and the crazy ones over there. That's kind of the breakdown. The left sees a world where we have two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, in a constant battle for who's in power. Democrats are more liberal with spending and social norms, and the Republicans are more conservative, both fiscally and socially. Sort of. Sometimes one is in power, sometimes the other. That's how it should be. Some on the left see Republican politicians as warmongers and racists, but at the core they're decent people who are trying their best. The president is in charge of the government. When he's in office, institutions like the FBI, the CIA, the DOD, the DHS, the State Department, etc., do what the president tells them to do. The president, his administration, and his party are mostly aligned. Politicians generally aim to make our lives better. Yeah, lobbyists are a problem. Politicians overpromise and underdeliver, and some shady things happen here and there, but overall, they're trying their best. The media and government institutions like the FBI, the judicial system, and so on are generally good, hardworking people just doing their best. Sure, things are perhaps not as good as they were, and social media has made us all more polarized, but they're trying. Then Trump came and wrecked the system. He took control of the Republican Party and whipped most voters into a frenzy, leaving many sane Republican voters and politicians without a political home. Trump is a vile, racist, wannabe dictator who loves other dictators. He craves attention and power in order to fill the bottomless void in his fragile ego. He has no respect for democracy or the rule of law and will not hesitate to mobilize this gullible, violent mob of MAGA supporters to make sure he stays in power forever, should he ever get into office again. Footnote, he did. He lies and cheats, he calls immigrants animals, and he's a disgusting human who's unfit to be president. If he's elected a second time, he'll feel emboldened to go all in on enabling his radical, dictatorial, new Hitler-like regime, going after journalists and migrants and political opponents and anyone else he feels has insulted his fragile sense of self. If you're on the left, does this ring more or less true? I hope so. The right's worldview. Now let's turn to the right's worldview. And here's the illustration for those of you who are following live. So the right has on the left is the blob, which is kind of the blue, which has the Dems and the FBI and the CIA and the DOD and the media and the judges and the uni party of Democrats and Republicans and the Facebooks and the Googles and the military industrial complex and pharma and universities and elites and all of that stuff, plus all the blue-pilled people. And then the Republicans are split between the blob and the Trump MAGA on the right. And so we've got Trump MAGA, we got MAHA, we got RFK, we got Elon, we got X, we got local law enforcement, we got workers, we got New York Post sometimes, we got independent media, and the red pill people, and that's the Trump MAGA world. So that's the distinction there. Back to the manuscript. The Trump right sees most government institutions, politicians, judges, and media from both sides of the so-called aisle as a corrupt cabal controlled by the deep state, co-joined with cartels and organized crime. This blob controls every major government institution, the military or intelligence industrial complex, big pharma, big agriculture, most corporate media, most universities, the drug trade, and human trafficking. MAGA people don't consider the Democrat and Republican parties as meaningfully distinct. They call them the uni party because both parties are mostly controlled by the blob against the people. They believe the government and the corporate media are the biggest purveyors of misinformation, and the government wants to get rid of the First and Second Amendments and implement a censorship regime so they can continue to lie unimpeded and stop people from talking about it or fighting back. The media works to enslave rather than inform citizens. The right believes that every recent presidential candidate has been pre-selected by the blob, so the blob could continue their corruption unimpeded regardless of who won. The president must keep the scam going against the interests of the people or risk JFK's fate. That's why you see such a difference in what presidents say and do after they're elected. Meaning, what they say before they get elected and then what they do after they're elected. All the endless, deadly, and costly wars, the deterioration in public health, and the toxic political climate are all outcomes the blob wants. They're not accidents. Trump is the one politician that got away. He won the Republican nomination and went on to win the election despite having his own party and the entire corporate media apparatus against him. I'm talking about the 2016 election here. Let me make that clear in the manuscript. Trump is a deeply flawed human being, but he's fighting for the people against the blob, and that's what matters. Again, I'm citing the right-wing worldview here. He's such a threat to the blob that they're using our compromised judicial system to try and imprison him, and they're using covert assets to try and murder him. I'm talking about the 2024 election here and the assassination attempts, obviously. Biden and Harris are both puppets of the blob, mere empty vessels. Biden literally senile, Harris not very bright. Their most critical mission for the blob has been to import millions of migrants likely to vote Democrat to swing states so they can win future elections without having to cheat, effectively making America a one-party state. Over. Their most critical mission for the blob has been to import millions of migrants likely to vote Democrat to swing states so they can win future elections without having to cheat, effectively making America a one-party state like what happened in California after the 1986 amnesty. Those are the two worldviews. You may think the other side is absolutely nuts for believing what they believe, but remember, they're not your enemy. They're your neighbor, your uncle, your child, your friend. If you'd seen what they've seen, you would believe the same thing too. If you believe what they believe, you do the same thing they do. About half the country sees the world one way, the other half sees it the other way. We see differently. Let's look at how this plays out. When a video clip surfaces of Trump at a rally speaking out angrily against Harris or the media or judges or something, each side sees something very different. Someone on the left will see Trump as unhinged and dangerous. It reminds them of clips they've seen of Hitler. The anger and vitriol hits them in their stomach and it makes them recoil. They think, this isn't right, we're better than this. We must be kind to each other. I think it's a typo. Love, not hate. This tone is just not appropriate for a president. Someone on the right sees Trump as righteously angry for all the lies, phony lawsuits, and literal attempts at his life that have been thrown at him for almost a decade now. Add in all the insults that they have personally suffered, like being called racist, Nazis, white supremacists, bigots, and worse, and they're right there with him. Of course Trump is angry. Our government have destroyed the country for decades, and they've viciously tried to destroy him, Trump, ever since he started running. They see Trump as having the strength and courage to fight back against the corrupt deep state cabal that has taken over and wrecked the country, so together, we the people can restore America to a republic of the people, by the people, for the people, a country that works for all Americans the way it was intended. A country that works for all Americans the way it was intended. 2 movies, 1 screen. I saw a clip posted yesterday, October 13, 2024, by the Kamala HQ X account, and it's a perfect illustration. The Kamala HQ account has 1.3 million followers, has a verified blue check, was endorsed by the official Kamala Harris account in 2019, and has a pinned post saying, "Welcome to Kamala HQ. This is the official rapid response page of Vice President Harris's presidential campaign." Just to clarify, this is legit. This is, as far as I can tell, it's a legit account. The clip is of Trump sitting perfectly calm with an interviewer on Fox News. And I'm just going to read through the transcript here. Interviewer: "Are you expecting chaos on election day, Trump?" "No, I don't think so. Not from the side that votes for Trump." Interviewer: But I'm just wondering if these outside agitators will start up on election day. Let's say you win. I mean, let's remember you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years. There are people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You got, like you said, 13,000 murders and 15,000 rapists. What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day. Trump. Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening, in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problems in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're the big, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen. Now, that was the transcript from the video. The text that accompanied the video clip says this: Trump says Americans who don't support him are enemies and says, Trump says Americans who don't support him are enemies and says they may need to be handled by the military. I believe that Kamala HQ account that that's what most people on the left will hear. They also hear Trump hurling an insult at Joe Biden, a good, decent man who has served his country honorable. They also hear Trump hurling an insult at Joe Biden, a good, decent man who has served his country honorably his whole life and has now selflessly stepped aside to let a woman of color representing the next generation lead. Totally uncalled for by Trump. What someone on the right hears is Trump rightfully pointing out violent elements like Antifa on the left. He doesn't mention them by name, but most people on the right think of Antifa as the armed militia of the Democrat Party, who's ready to riot on command wherever and whenever it's helpful to the corrupt Democrat machine. Calling those violent criminals radical left lunatics is correct in their mind, and using the National Guard or the military to stop their violence against innocent citizens is absolutely called for. As for the insult hurled at Joe Biden, it's valid. Biden, in their mind, stole the 2020 election, has caused unheard of inflation, have ran a corrupt influence peddling scheme for decades, given billions to foreign nations, allowed millions of illegal immigrants to enter the country, launched lawfare against his political opponent, all while his dementia was being covered up by the media and the VP now running for president. So yeah, an insult is in place. That's how the same clip lands with each side. If you'd seen what they've seen, if you believed what they believe, it would land the same way for you. Notice how both sides are motivated by good intentions for America. This is very important. Both sides want to do the right thing. It's just that our radically different worldview means that we see the right thing to mean radically different things. Move this a little bit closer. Blue versus red. The blue-red on the cover of this book is not really about Democrats versus Republicans as you might have thought at first. It's really about the red pill or the blue pill. I think we all know the movie The Matrix, where Morpheus offers Neo a choice between the blue pill or the red pill. From the script of the movie, this is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Back to the book, or end quote. The blue pill has you believing in the fairy tale, the surface story of the world. The media is trustworthy, politicians are doing their best to make the country better, the justice system is functioning. Once you take the red pill, you realize nothing is as it seems. You don't get blue pilled. Blue pilling is the default. It's what we've all been taught in school, in history class, through the media. It's what you believe when you haven't started to ask the big questions. There's not one red pill narrative. In my journey, I've continued to go deeper. Where does all this end? What's the final truth? It's hard, if not impossible, to find out. Perhaps it's turtles all the way down. Does reality even exist, or are we living in a simulation? Who knows? But to a red-pilled person, it's better to know and look than to live in denial. There's also the black pill and the white pill. Black-pilled people believe it's hopeless. The shadowy forces are too powerful. There's nothing we can do. Just keep your head down and make the most of it. White-pilled people are optimistic. People are waking up. We have the power and the opportunity to make the world better. I'm very much white-pilled. On shaky ground. To people who took the blue pill or who were never offered the choice, I get it. It's really hard to wrap your head around just how warped things are. When you realize you cannot trust any of the institutions you've built your entire life around, it rattles you. The government, the media, the justice system, the medical system, celebrities, all of it's a lie. Sheesh. Your sense of belonging is threatened. What will your tribe think? Your spouse, your own family? Will you still be welcome? Will you continue to be one of them? And are you becoming one of them? The bad guys, the other side, the people you've been taught to demonize and vilify? It's almost too much. Your very foundation is shaken. Your sense of safety and certainty is in question. It can be really tough. People have nightmares. It triggers their traumas. It's the Truman Show. Everything you've been brought up to believe is a lie. It shakes the foundations of your world. Who and what can I trust? It reminds me of when I quit smoking. It's not one thing that keeps you smoking. It's a whole range of little things. Touching your lips, having something to do with your hands, the nicotine rush. It's a social thing to do. It regulates your digestion and elimination. I literally couldn't, TMI. It's become a habit. And then there's all of the triggers around food, alcohol, caffeine, social events, and on and on. This is the same. There's a million reasons and incentives to take the blue pill and almost none to take the red pill. This is why the programming works so effectively. I still remember when I was going through my own red pilling. It was disorienting. My known reality was dissolving in front of my eyes. So much of what I'd been taught about history and politics and the world was a fairy tale. I was already skeptical by nature, so it wasn't as shocking to me as it is to most people, but it was still shocking. Shocking and exhilarating, actually. Discovering the truth, love, and God are synonyms in my book. I'll do this paragraph over. I'll get some water. Shocking and exhilarating, actually. Discovering the truth. It's a period there. It's like, confuses me. Shocking and exhilarating, actually. Discovering the truth. Truth, love, and God are synonyms in my book. I'd rather live in truth, love, and God than in lies. I'd also already made the shift from finding my sense of certainty and safety from the outside world to finding it in the spirit. I'll read this paragraph again. Over. I'd also already made the shift from finding my sense of certainty and safety in the outside world to finding it in spirit. So I wasn't as threatened as most. The big lie. The fact is, the bigger the lie, the easier it is to get people to believe it. It's wild how this works. I just looked this up. I thought it was the Goebbels, but it turns out that it was Adolf Hitler himself who said this in Mein Kampf. Oh shit, we're reading Mein Kampf. You're not allowed to. In the big lie, there's always a certain force of credibility because the broad masses of a nation are almost... All right, start the quote over. In the big lie, there's always a certain force of credibility because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie. Since they themselves often tell small lies in little matters, but would be ashamed to resort to large-scale falsehoods. It would never come into their heads to fabricate colossal untruths, and they would not believe that others could have the impudence? I don't know that word, actually. I put it in the book. Let's look it up. Impotence, the quality of being impotent, impertinence. Not showing due respect for another person. I think it's impotence. All right, I'll do this paragraph again. It would never come into their heads to fabricate colossal untruths, and they will not believe that others could have the impotence to distort the truth so infamously. Even though the facts which prove this to be so may, even though the facts which prove this to be, even though the facts which proves this to be so may be brought clearly to their minds, they will still doubt and waver and will continue to think that there may be some other explanation. End quote. Make the lie big enough and you can practically wave evidence right in people's faces and they won't believe it. It's almost as if they're incapable of seeing it. Their unconscious mind filters it out because it perceives it as a threat to their survival. It's clever and devious and sinister. If you're not yet red-pilled, you're probably thinking the lie cannot possibly be this big. No way. But what if I am telling the truth? What if it really is as dark and depraved and as corrupt as I say it is? I know I haven't gotten to just how corrupt it is, but we'll get there. Would you want to know the truth? Or would you rather stick your head in the sand and continue like before? The choice is yours, blue pill or red. Think about that as you read this book. I want to emphasize this point too. People are more easily corrupted in their emotional being than in their rational. This is why there's such a push to traumatize us into our cavemen and cave women. It makes us go low rung. It makes us easier to manipulate, and it makes us into Manchurian candidates terrorizing each other. Keep looking. Most people, when they start to hear facts that counter their beliefs, will want to just give up. You must not do this. Don't capitulate. Don't give up on searching for the truth. I know it sucks that we don't have any trusted source of truth, but giving up is what the man behind the curtain wants you to do. That's why one of their favorite tricks is to flood social media with all kinds of false stories from both sides. They want us confused and arguing over BS. It's our moral duty as citizens to make the effort to find a way to fact find for ourselves. That was a lot of find. I'm going to just go off script here for a minute and say and emphasize this. If you live in a democracy, it is your duty to make an effort to find out what the truth is for yourself outside of what's coming to you from the media and from the official sources. It is your duty. Otherwise, you're just being like a sheep, a peasant, someone who's a slave who's being controlled. It is your duty and your obligation. That's the price that you pay for living in a democracy. You got to do this. That's my belief. Back to the script. Team up with people you trust, with people you agree with, and with people you disagree with. Equip yourself with an open mind and an open heart. Be willing to deal with your triggers, roll up your sleeves, and get to work. I have a chapter that shows you how to do this. The only way out is through. We've been made to believe that the other side is the enemy when they're truly your allies. My contribution. What I want to do with this book is help you look at reality more honestly. I want to remind you that the other side is not your enemy no matter which side you're on, that we fundamentally want the same thing, and that together we have the power to create the world we all want to live in. If we're willing to find integrity, courage, love, and healing. Some people will read this book and dismiss me as a typical right-winger. Some will get triggered and upset and want to throw the book away. If that's what you want to do, I can't stop you. I invite you to look deeper though. Your triggers are yours, not mine. They're your opportunity for more inner freedom and joy. They're your opportunity for more inner freedom and joy. There's more here than meets the eye. Remember that what I present here is a viewpoint that about half the country holds. Even if you disagree with me on all the points, it might be one of the most helpful tools to have a better relationship with your crazy uncle or father or grandmother or friend, to truly understand how they see the world. It might bring you closer together. You don't have to agree, but you might be able to empathize more. Read it for your love of your family and your fellow man. I'm not your enemy. You're not my enemy. We, the people, are not each other's enemies. We're all on the same team. Some readers are already red-pilled in some areas, but not others. Maybe you're into natural health and you've seen firsthand the failings of our medical system. Or maybe you're an expert in some other topic and you've seen how distorted the news coverage is in your area of expertise. But you haven't connected all the dots yet across all the different areas. Media, medicine, immigration, elections, FBI, CIA, organized crime, drugs, human trafficking. You haven't seen how it's all part of one big tapestry. I should mention food. It's not just broken into one. No, It's not just broken in this one area, it's broken all across, and it's by design. As the British theorist Stafford Bear, known for his work in cybernetics, said, "The purpose of a system is what it does." You'll hear me say this over and over again. I'm just going to go off script here for a second because this is an argument I had with my dad. He read this. He's like, "I've seen many systems that didn't do what they were supposed to." Yes. The point here is that when you have a system that consistently, year after year, decade after decade, creates the same outcome, and that outcome is the opposite of what they say they want to do, and every piece of this machine keeps doing the same thing, chances are the people who say they wanted to do something else are lying. Either they're lying or they're just extremely incompetent. I think the best way to look at what the outcomes over the past many, many decades of America and the West is to assume that the results that we have are what the machine wants, and not assume that they're just good-hearted people who are trying their best and they're just not very good at it. That's my take. Back to the script. The system is doing exactly what it's intended to do. It's just that the intention is in direct opposition to the interests of the people and not at all what it says on the tin. If you're not yet fully red-pilled, I hope to take you there. Go all in. See just how deep the rot goes. Dip your toes in the water. It's warmer than you think. You'll find it a more loving, happier, healthier place than you thought. Take in the wonder of it. If humans can create something this magnificently sinister, we can create something equally beautiful. We have the power. And then there are people who are fully red-pilled and who can add a lot more detail to these pieces than I've included here and that I'm even aware of. For those people and for everyone, I hope my vision of the world we want to live in and my thoughts on how we could get there are inspiring and insightful. And obviously there are going to be people who are blue-pilled who are reading this, but maybe not so likely. But if you are, I applaud you and I welcome you. And I hope that I can take you on this journey and you might be able to see some elements of truth here. I don't need you to buy everything I say, but I don't need you to buy anything. But it's an invitation to see the world differently. If not for you, for people you love. Back to the script. Love, truth, and God. Just because we see the corruption and the grift in society doesn't mean we're angry or scared or think it shouldn't be this way. My heart breaks for everyone involved because I recognize the pain they must be in to live like this. Hang on, I'm reading this and I'm like, what did that mean? Just because we see the corruption and the grift in society doesn't mean we're angry or scared or think it shouldn't be this way. Yeah. Okay. So the point of this is not super well phrased, but the point is that once you start to see the corruption and the grift and like the evilness that's happening, you can still be at peace. Like you don't have to be angry or scared or even have a story that says it shouldn't be that way and like be against it. That's the point that's the point I want to reinforce here. Could have said that better. Hope I just did. My heart breaks for everyone involved because I recognize the pain they must be in to live like this. So what I'm trying to say here is that the people who are committing the atrocities, who are lying to you, who are murdering people all over the world, who are making people take experimental drugs that cause harm, etc., they are in pain. Like they must be in this incredible pain inside in order for them to live like this. So back to the script now. From Byron Katie's incredible book, 1,000 Names for Joy, which everyone would do well to read 1,000 times. Quote, "A man sticks a pistol into my stomach, pulls the hammer back and says, 'I'm going to kill you.' I'm shocked that he's taking his thoughts so seriously. To someone identified as an I, the thought of killing causes guilt that leads to a life of suffering. So I ask him as kindly as I can not to do it. I don't tell him that it's his suffering I'm thinking of. He says that he has to do it, and I understand. I remember believing that I had to do things in my old life. I thank him for doing the best he can, and I notice that I'm fascinated. Is this how she dies? Is this how the story ends? And as joy continues to fill me, I find it miraculous that the story is still going on. You can never know the ending, even as it ends. I'm very moved at the sight of the sky, clouds, and moonlit trees. I love that I don't miss one moment, one breath of this amazing life. I wait and wait, and in the end, he doesn't pull the trigger. He doesn't do that to himself. Unquote. How beautiful is that? That's how you face even the scariest and seemingly most horrible moments in life. Always question your thoughts. If you think anything should be any different from how it is, you're mistaken. You're fighting reality, and reality will always win. Reality is exactly the way it's supposed to be, but only always. All of the freedom and joy you could dream of, is on the other side of that insight. It doesn't mean we don't take action to change things, but the action is coming from love, joy, and being aligned with reality, not from anger or fighting reality. As David Hawkins taught us in his brilliant book, Power versus Force, when you align with truth, love, and God, you don't need force. The British Empire was about force. Gandhi was power. Making it simpler. One of my gifts is taking in tons and tons of information and distilling it all down into something simple, seeing patterns and connecting dots. I have a rare combination of passions in health and technology, in math and spirituality, in mindset, and politics. I put it all together to form a complete tapestry. I'm also really good at reasoning from first principles. Why is it this way? What do we want to achieve? What is the simplest way to achieve this? I add decades of study into health, spirituality, relationships, entrepreneurship, creativity, purpose, and human thriving. Everything we all want out of life, and that we tend to want the government to provide for us, but which it never can. In the coaching that I do with my clients, we go into the deepest unconscious beliefs and into the deepest, most powerful repressed emotions like grief and rage. There's no emotion I'm afraid of. There's very few places in the human psyche I haven't been. This brings a unique perspective on the political conversation because so much of what we want out of politics is about our unconscious feelings and beliefs, and so much of what makes us fight each other and therefore easy to control is also due to our unconscious feelings and beliefs. This is both a moment in time book and a book that outlines the 30, 50, 100,000 year vision. All the principles are timeless. Today, I consider myself firmly white-pilled. For most of my life, I was firmly in the left worldview. Like everyone else, I grew up on the blue pill. No, not that one, you freak. Let me tell you what changed my mind. All right. With that, I'm going to wrap up for today. That was an hour of my book. We Can Do This. Well, how to overcome the political divide and create the world we want to live in. Go get it. It's on. You can find it on my X profile. You can find it on Amazon. If you spell, it's actually hard to find on Amazon because they'll respell my name wrong, and then it doesn't come up. But if you go to it should be on my website somewhere. I think it's on my website. I'll make sure it's on my website. But if you go to my X profile, it's linked in the profile there. So get a copy of it. It's totally worth reading. Put a lot of love into it. Let's go like decades of deep thinking and research and studying, and like hundreds of books and thousands of hours of content consumed to form this worldview. So appreciate you being here and listening in live on this recording, on this taping of the audiobook. My brother keeps pestering me and others like, when is there an audiobook? I'm like, all right, got to get it done. So that's it. This is the first two chapters. We got a few more to go, but we'll get there. Let me see here. This is page 30. So I guess we're 10% there. So in 10 days, we can get it done. How about that? All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Bye.